right, metabolic workout number 4. This is MRT circuit number 2. So we got a barbell hip thrust. That's going to be for those glutes, a little bit of lower back as well. Then we are going right into a renegade row. Then we're going to move to a squat jump, and we're going to finish with the mountain climber. So let's start with this barbell hip thrust. So I'd say before you work into the barbell hip thrust, practice a couple of reps, body weight up against the bench. Well, in terms of equipment necessary, we obviously need a barbell, we need a bench, we need one set of dumbbells for the renegade row. You can also use kettlebells, but that's more advanced. If you want to do that, that's great, but you just need a set of dumbbells. And you also need a pad to go across your lap for when you place the barbell over your lap. So again, I would start with a couple of body weight hip thrusts, so I'll show you what that looks like. So for anybody who's ever sat in a hot tub, you kind of sit back and you chill all cool and you put your arms out. This is kind of what we're doing when we go into the hip thrust. We're gonna sit up against the bench just like this, all cool. Feet a little bit out in front of us, arms out. We want to be in a position where the bench is just below our shoulder blades. So you can see where my shoulder blades are, the bench is just underneath it. So the bench is kind of digging in underneath my shoulder blades. That's going to create like a little bit of a ridge and allow me to keep my back on the bench a little bit more. So a hip thrust, which we learned in metabolic workout number 1 from the floor, now we're going to do it up against the bench, and it's the exact same mechanics. We're in this position here, feet are a little bit wide. We're going to drive our hips up towards the ceiling. We're going to squeeze those glutes and lock them out. Common mistakes on this are having the feet in too close and then getting into this position. That's a bad angle. We don't want to be there. It's bad for the knees. So we want those feet to be a little bit further out. Other mistakes people make are driving up too high, arching the hips here, and creating too much compression on the spine. That's not good either. So feet a little bit further out so we have a good angle on the leg. And then I suggest keeping the chin tucked in order to make sure we don't go up too high. So keep that chin tucked a little bit, drive those glutes till they're nice and tight, hips in line with the knee, in line with the shoulder. Once we get to this position here, we're high enough. We don't need to go any higher than that. This is a completely locked in position with the bar up. So practice a couple of body weight hip thrusts just like this to get the movement down, and then you can work into the barbell hip thrust. So barbell hip thrust when you're doing this on your own. So I've had a lot of people ask me, how do I do the barbell hip thrust on my own if I'm in the gym not with a partner or a spotter? Very easy. If you have bumper plates, put the bumper plates on there, or even a 45-pound plate, a plate that's a little bit elevated, you'll have enough room and clearance that you can slide the bar underneath you. So again, if you can't do 135 pounds on the bar with the 45s, just use the bumper plates, which are the bigger round plates, and put a 25 on each side, or even a 10, and then you can easily put the bar over your lap. So it looks like this. I'm gonna sit down again in that like hot tub chill position. This time I'm gonna go legs straight. So my back's up against the bench, my legs are straight. I'm gonna lay this pad on my lap, and now I'm just gonna slide the bar all the way up over my lap. Make sure that pad is positioned nicely. So you want that bar to be nice and close, kind of right at the hip position. So as close as you can get it before you actually need to start moving. So bars all up tight against me. Now from here, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna position my back up against the bench again, and I'm gonna lift my legs up and bring my hips up into the starting position. Now from here, I'm gonna start nice and low, keep that chin tucked, drive up, squeeze, and then right back down. Drive up, squeeze, lock it out, right back down. And then at the bottom, when you finish, just drop, and then you can easily slide the bar out from underneath you. This is going to be a fantastic exercise to build the glutes, build your butt up, especially for those people who sit in an office all day. They're always sitting on their ass. Their glutes get really weak. This is going to be a great exercise to activate those and actually start to build up those glutes. And for you ladies, it's going to build up your ass nice. All right. Then we're going to move right into the renegade row. So renegade row, probably more of a core exercise than it is actually a back exercise, although we will be rowing. So we're gonna get 2 dumbbells, and what I want you to think about with the Renegade row is I want you to think about a triangle. Triangle, hands together, feet wide. That's gonna be a nice stable base for you, especially if it's the first time or you're kind of a beginner or you have a little bit of a weak core. So we want those dumbbells, hands are gonna be together, feet are gonna be wide. Common mistakes on this are starting too narrow. If you start too narrow with your feet too narrow and your hands too wide, it's gonna be too off balance, and when you're trying to row, you're gonna twist around and you're gonna kind of fall over. Other mistakes are pulling straight up and rowing again with the hand towards the shoulder. Remember, if we row here, we're using our bicep and our rear delt and a lot of upper back for the row. This is not a good strong row unless we just want to work our rear delts. If that's the goal, that's great. But if we want to work our lats, this is the rowing motion. So it's a little bit forward, pulling a little bit more towards the hip, keeping a little bit more of a 90-degree angle at the elbow. All right, siren's gone. So again, let's get down and show what this looks like. So again, common mistakes are starting with the hands too wide and the feet too narrow. When you row, you're gonna wanna fall over and you're gonna have to turn your hips too much. It's gonna be too hard. So get those hands together, get those feet a little bit wide, get that butt down. Other mistake is keeping that butt too high, or again, humping the floor. We don't want to do either. So get that nice plank position, lock those glutes out, and stay nice and strong in a nice line. And then drive towards the hip, right back down, drive towards the hip, right back down, drive towards the hip, right back down. Key is to try to keep those hips level and keep them from swinging back and forth. And as you get better and better at the exercise, not only will you be able to increase the weight, but you can also narrow those feet up a little bit, and that'll make the exercise that much harder. All right, next we move into the squat jump. And next we move into the squat jump, which we already learned all the cues on. So remember, activating those legs, nice dynamic movement, really soft knees, moving up and down for the squat jump. And then we're gonna finish off with a mountain climber. I'm gonna show you what that looks like. I'm gonna move these dumbbells out of the way. So mountain climber from the floor. The floor is gonna be the hardest position to do this in. You're gonna get into a position like you would if you were trying to do a sprint race in the Olympics. If you ever watch Usain Bolt or the Olympic sprinters, you're gonna see them hands down, 1 foot up, 1 foot back. It looks like this. So you're gonna get in this position here. And all we're gonna do from here is switch our feet. Boom, boom, boom. And then we're just gonna do it a little bit faster, a little more dynamic, and that's the mountain climber. So again, nice flat back, keeping your hips low, and just switching out those feet. Not really a whole lot of mistakes you can make on this one, other than as you get tired, you'll start to round your back and get more up here, and that can put a little more stress on your back, but just try to keep those hips down and go through it. If you struggle with that, or that's just too hard for you, you can also do the mountain climber up against the bench. So what I mean by that is, you can put your hands on the bench, just like this, put your feet back, and you can do the mountain climber simply like this. You're gonna get a little bit more ab work by doing it that way, although it's a little bit easier to do on the cardiovascular system. So it's a little bit easier, but again, if you can't do it from the floor, try doing it that way.